Ladies and gentlemen, one of the highest honors at Whale Certified is to be able to be in the Boom Boom Studios in downtown Holly Hills and talk to one of its own, Dr. Charles, a.k.a. Chuck Zorumski, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, hey, Kevin, it's good to be with you.
Well, on behalf of the Whale Certified Nation, people have been clamoring to have you on all the time. It's kind of like you're writing up the ship type of thing. And I have a note from the Holly Hills Neighborhood Association to say, Chuck, it was wonderful seeing you jog around the neighborhood, man, for decades. We miss you.
Yeah. Now I just walk the streets a bit, trying to rehab my knee and everything. But yeah, it used to be fun to run into all kinds of people, you included. And we hadn't actually met at that point, so I'm like trying to figure out who this guy is, and it turns out it's Wales,
man. And I'm very present, but I go back into the time. I'm going to take you back to 1972 for Stag Soccer when you guys played, I guess, before the Stars at the old arena in a little league with you had the Meyer brothers and Tim McAvoy, Eddie Clear, Jack Keneally, I mean. You remember?
Yeah. I had seen you sent something about that being one of the early precursors to what became in professional indoor soccer.
Yeah.
And it was the old, I think it was called the St. Louis League at that time. And I was 19 playing for Stag. And we would play Friday night or something like that, games at the old arena. And it was great. I mean, it was absolutely wild. But they were teams from the St. Louis League. So that Kudus was in there with us. Bush.
Yeah.
Cronlet Sunday Morning Gang.
Yeah.
All of those folks. So the Kickers probably were in that as well. So no, it was a great experience. And then that Stag team, as you and I have talked before, had a huge impact on me. It's when life really changed for me. All of a sudden, somebody thought I could play, and I was just thinking. I knew we were going to be talking today, and I was thinking about that Stag team. The other goalkeeper on that team had a huge impact on me, and I forgot to mention him at times. It was a guy named Mike Barnstead.
Yeah, man.
Mike was a great goalkeeper.
Oh, yeah.
St. Louis. I think he played all 4 years at Rockhurst and was, a highly touted player there.
Yeah.
So Mike kind of takes me under his wing when I move over from Kickers to Stag, and he's like almost a personal coach at that time.
Wow.
I've never forgotten that. He had a huge impact on me. But that was all wrapped into that, playing in that indoor league and things like that. And then out of that, they picked a number of players, and I was lucky to get picked to the gang that then played, I think, home and home, but we definitely made a trek to Chicago to play in an indoor facility at Chicago where Rudy Getzinger and multiple of the German players that were in Chicago and Croatian players that were in Chicago were playing on those teams. They were absolutely spectacular.
Oh,
players.
Yeah. How about Mike Winter? Did you ever have any dealings with Mike Winters?
I only knew Mike Winter in passing. He was a little bit older than me and had come out of another thing that you had sent was the photo of the junior national team for the U.S.
Yeah.
Roughly about 1969. Mike Siri, Joe Ham. Man, I was shocked at how many St. Louis players were on there. Mike Winter was the goalkeeper on that, if I read the roster correctly.
Yes, you did.
And Mike goes on to have a great couple of seasons with the St. Louis Stars.
Sure did.
He went to college. I don't know him well, but I knew enough about him. He went to college in Colorado, I'm pretty sure, on a skiing scholarship, and was also a goalkeeper, and a high-level goalkeeper. So phenomenal athlete, from what I remember about him.
Oh, yeah, top notch. I mean, he had a style of his own, man.
Yeah.
That,
And as Mike moved on to whatever else he did, Joe Wright stepped into that position of playing for the Stars, was the starting goalkeeper for the Stars.
how about that, man?
Yeah, and I mentioned before, Joe Wright grew up about 3-4 blocks from me near Fairgrounds Park. So I was around Joe from the time I was a little kid.
It was like the goalkeeper central, man. That neighborhood, you could find some, the top class of St. Louis soccer around there.
Yeah, and then in addition, he didn't go to Holy Rosary, because I've actually looked this up since you and I've been talking about this. But Mike Houlihan was in the mix there.
Wow.
And Mike was an icon of St. Louis goalkeepers.
Absolutely.
I think he came out of like St. Matthews or somewhere like that.
Okay.
And he ended up playing, by the time I was old enough to know, he was playing senior men's ball for the Holy Rosary Parish team in the CYC Major League at that time. Yeah.
How about Warren Domatina?
Oh man, Warren was kind of an idol for me. Played for Kudus. Him and a guy named Elroy Franks. I'm pretty sure the other goalkeeper for Kudus. This is for the great Kudus teams in the early to mid '60s. And Warren was, really athletic. It was what I remember about him, and just impressed by a player like that. And so all these guys had a big impact on me as I was growing up. Because by the time I was I started out, I'm left-handed and left-footed, so they started me out playing inside left in the old MW system.
Yeah.
So I was playing forward back then. But by the time I was 10 years old to 11, I already wanted to be a goalkeeper. So I would go with my dad to see those players play. Kudus, St. Ambrose, the Kickers, the great Kickers teams of the mid-'60s or so. You would go see them play, and the goalkeepers had big impacts on me. Henry Kuster, playing for the Kickers, was a great goalkeeper in his time.
Is that right?
It was just for me as a kid. It was just a great experience. It wasn't pro, but these guys were really good.
Yeah, man. Yeah. If there had been a pro league, they would have played in it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every one of those people I mentioned probably would have been a pro player of one type or another. Yeah.
So I take you that now. I take you right up to your mid to talk about at hand is to reminisce and to get some understanding about that last game that everybody in high school soccer is they've either coming up to it or they have already passed it. And my take, and then we'll get to you, Doctor, is my take was that field at at Forest Park when you played for SLU, that field there, you practice and everything, where at that time all the games were there, and before they used to have lily ponds, and then they dried up, and then you had a little some parking spaces up at that one end by the golf course, and they had one tree there. If you can imagine Forest Park surrounded by trees, and in the middle nothing, just total sun, and then that tree. But down from it a little bit was a field, and that was one of the goals where they played one of the goals. And walking around there at the corner, I've walked that many a time and got carried off on my friends and teammates' shoulders and walking with the head down to the car because that's the last game of the season. But nothing ever hit me so much as the last game, to where it's never left. People said, "Hey, you got to prepare." You got to prepare, or you prepare to fail. If you don't prepare, you're preparing to fail. But I was preparing, but nothing hit me so much that I just collapsed. I just collapsed to say, "My gosh, it's over. It's over. Never again." And oh my gosh. And then to say, got to rise up. There'll be new challenges. There'll be new states. And then going as a coach and seeing other players go through it. It's like a union is a pathway to being a player. What do you do on your last game? And it prepared me almost for retirement in my career. I've only had 2 jobs in my life, as an usher and as a stagehand. And in my last, I said, I'm going to look around and I'm going to take it all in. And just like nothing could prepare me to realize that's the last time I'll ever work in the theater. That's the last time I'll be a stagehand. And these things become real. And you hear pro athletes and other people that was their whole life, and they kind of emotionally crush, and then they go to the depression and drink and take drugs that set deeper and deeper in possession in depression. It's kind of like you're in a hole, and the first thing that a good person tells you is say, "Hey man, stop digging. Stop digging, and then we'll get you out." But I wanted to put that as a foundation, and for you to dismantle it. I don't know if I'm helping you as much as you are helping us, but you're over there at the hospital with some major. You talk, neighborhood area. I mean, you are helping the community, and you are worldwide. Your ripple goes worldwide, and hats off to you. We salute you here. But how about it? You want to?
It's Kevin. Those are really important and meaningful and really emotionally laden kind of comments, right? I mean, and it really reflects kind of how things are. One question is the game you're describing. What was that? Was that the end of high school, or what was the last game like that you're describing? I'm just curious when that one occurred.
Yeah. That particular one was, yes, the end of high school and the end of junior cup.
Yeah, and and it's interesting. You had mentioned that you might want to talk about this, and it's an interesting topic to think about. And we face last games, and you alluded to this. We face last games, if you will, many times in our life, don't we? I mean, it can be sports, it can be soccer, it can be whatever sport you happen to be playing. And there's a last game of a season. And what was that game like? I mean, sometimes that last game, if you were on a team that was going nowhere and wasn't very good, sometimes the late DeAndre's teams, where the teams were decimated, and we were okay, but not really better than that. Or with kickers, the first year when I was 18 playing in the senior men's league, the team was not good, and it was in the lower part of the league, if even out of the basement. And so sometimes the last game was kind of a relief in some ways, right? Like it's over, man. We did what we could, and we just weren't good enough. That's a hard lesson, right? That's not an easy thing to say to yourself. We just weren't good enough. But then the beauty of soccer and sports is that a season can come to an end, and if you're lucky, you end up playing the last games are in some kind of major championship of some sort. It could be for national championships, and that's really an incredible experience. And sometimes you win those. I mean, I've thinking about this, I think I played in 7 national championship games in my career, and had the blessing to win 5 of them and lose 2. Technically, it was 5-1-1 because when you lose on penalty kicks, it's considered officially a tie, and you just lost by virtue of somebody had to be declared the winner, in a game. But and so you got the chance to walk off the field, really kind of exhilarated, man, we did it. How did we do this, and then you walk off the field other times, like the other 2 times, and sometimes in national semifinal games, you get beat. And man, that can be demoralizing in some ways, and the things that kind of pull you through that are just thinking through on your own with good friends and friends who are good for you, meaning they're not going to drag you down with them. So that the social camaraderie of being a player pulls you through some of those things. And I think the same thing's true in other venues of our lives, where, a job comes to an end or we finish something and you go, okay, man, that's over. We're moving on to something else. But for most of the time, there's something else to go to. There's next season as a player, right?
Yeah.
There's a chance to play again. There's a chance to play for another team until you hit what you just described, which is the final game. This is it, man. This is the end of the. Sometimes you don't even know it's your final game, right? An injury kind of comes in, or for some players, or life circumstances take you away from the game or the job that you're in, and it is the final game, but you don't even know it, so you really haven't had time to reflect on it, So I don't. It's a complex set of topics because it depends on what the next step is for you, right? And you can if you know a career is coming to an end, and I'm facing that now. I'm in my 70s, and so I won't keep doing this forever. I mean, I can't do it. I mean, it's not how human life works, right? And so at some point, you're walking away from stuff that you did, but those who seem to do it best have kind of thought about what they're going to be doing beyond the last game, and have gotten themselves ready for it. I don't want to turn this into a babbling, so I'll let you ask whatever you want. But this is kind of an interesting timing for you to ask me about this stuff. Last week I gave one of the major talks in my department, and I talked about the problem that psychiatric illnesses have many problems associated with them, disability, bad outcomes because of death and things like that. I mean, it's something you face as a physician and as a psychiatrist. But one of the things that's now recognized in psychiatric illnesses is that they drive a process of premature aging. So you've heard people talk about, what's it look like somebody who's had serious illness for their life? They look older than they should be. That's premature aging. And stressors will do that to you. So the talk I gave was just about this topic, was about this idea that you're aging and maybe prematurely. And how do you live with that? What do we do about that? And fortunately, there are things coming on the horizon that can help with that from a physical standpoint, but the mental side of it is probably the biggest aspect of it, mental aging and how to keep yourself as young as possible. And maybe that's the topic we're really talking about today.
Wow. As far as a comic relief is that the story of, Jesus, Wills, you're driving me crazy. I say, get out and let's walk. It's a short walk. Save the gas. All right. There you go. So here we are. Yes, you're on to something. There it is, man. We found it. That's the diamond in the rough right there. Is that it's not over, man. It's not over. I guess you have to flip that switch in somebody who's in severe mode. But in all aspects of people, it's about that next there's a, it's going to happen, man. There's a next time for something. It's over where you're at, but you're moving on to something grand. And one of the highlights of my life is to hear about the story about death, and that the ship leaving, the train leaving. You say, oh man, but it's still there, and then you can't see it no more. But you have hope that on the other side, when you're waiting for that train, for that ship to come in, no, I don't see it. Well, wait a minute, there's something out there. Oh, no, there it is. And the closer it comes, the magnificence happen. And that song, Forever Young, is that to be forever young is a real possibility. That even there's my granddaughter has the little clip of Coco, Remember Me. And the old woman, that was young and then she's old, and then she hears that song, and she lights up. And I don't know if you could possibly, if you got copyright infringements, but to take us a little bit so we can be in the back and listen to that talk and just what the word salad that I just said that you put together.
I think some of the comments you just made are really important. And that line, that forever young kind of thing, I think that comes from Bob Dylan's song, actually. Because there's a Bob Dylan song that's attached to May You Be Forever Young. And man, what a beautiful way to think about things. Because, we talk about the last game kind of thing as it's the end, and it's a bad thing, right? But there are ways to end a career and move on that are not so devastating necessarily. And I think this is part of the mental preparation for the so-called last game. I'm thinking about this, and your comment about Forever Young reminded me of a song, not necessarily a song, but actually it's a movie. And you may recall the group that was called The Band. The basically the East Coast version of what I always thought they were the East Coast version of the Grateful Dead. It was kind of a quintessential hippie band on the East Coast called The Band, up on Cripple Creek and The Weight and things like that. Great songs. Well, they by later 1970s, they had been together and they had toured and they were burning out from it, right? And that happens also with the sports and sometimes in jobs and things like that. And they ended their career on a really high note. The concert they put in sometime in the late 70s, which I think was on a Thanksgiving Day by all things, was called The Last Waltz. And Martin Scorsese made it into a film, a documentary film, and it is one of the greatest concert movies of all time. Wow. And it was a celebration of their careers and what they meant to so many musicians. And that is kind of a way that we can sometimes end our athletic career or even other careers, is to kind of reflect on, the things that you've given. I mean, this is the old movie, It's a Wonderful Life kind of thing, right? I mean,
yeah.
where somebody gets a chance to look at the people they've affected and in a positive way, and then there are going to be negatives along the way. Matter of fact, we can talk about some of that as a matter of fact. But it's recognizing that, hey man, we actually did some good, and those friends who lifted you on their shoulders and celebrated a last game are telling you that you mean something. And one of the great things about being in a hometown like St. Louis and the soccer community of St. Louis is that the friendships that you formed years ago, 50 years ago now, and more than that in some cases, are folks that you may still see on some regular basis. And the soccer community has a way, and this is just my personal observation, so others may not agree with it, they don't forget you. So people that I thought only peripherally knew me from soccer may come up and just start talking to me about having played against me or with me on some team and things like that. And it's amazing and it's uplifting. And it's even broader than that. My two kids run into people. My last name is kind of weird, right? So you have to be related to me if you've got Zorumski as your last name. And the kids, the boys, end up in conversations with people that they never knew, who talk about St. Louis soccer and talk about me, sometimes in good terms and sometimes telling them what a jerk I actually was at times and things like that. But that is in some ways, Kevin, that's the stuff that's kind of immortal in many ways. It's the stuff that in your life beyond playing or beyond a job or things like that, people will come back and remember stuff that you did, and usually it's not negative. It's some version of good things that actually occurred.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So Doctor, I have. I'm not able to work technology too well. And so I'm on a battery right now, and it seems like I'm almost on the last leg and everything.
Okay.
And I was wondering, how about this? That we could either wrap it up and then go on for another day, or we could wrap it up and have part two in 10 minutes.
That sounds good, Kevin. Either way, so go ahead and get another phone and let me know what you do, and we'll
okay.
Figure out where to take it from here.
Well,
This is an interesting, and it's kind of a deep and sometimes poignant kind of conversation about this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right, and that's what we've been hitting on since the first time, man. That. And I appreciate, like I say something and I don't know where it's going to go, and I get positive results, feedback from you. And I trust if I wasn't, you would, straighten me out. But, man, this has really been good stuff.
It's great, Kevin. All right. Well, then this emotional part of life is part of who we are as human beings. We carry that. Never goes away, and frankly, I don't think we ever want it to go away, to be honest. So anyway, go ahead, and then let me know what you want to do, and we'll move from there.
All right. I'll give the hamster a day off, little coffee break, and then I'll go down, and then I'll come back up, and we'll hit it again. All right.
All right. Take care.
I'll call you in a couple minutes. Bye-bye.